The Board of Cricket Control in India has delivered another dud ball. In an information exclusive to Headlines Today, the manager's report on the fiasco in England is set to target the lawyers who lost Jadeja's case during the Slanderson episode. What's worse is that the report does not address the real issue behind India's humiliating loss.
The manager's report is set to go big on the Slanderson issue. This is a Headlines Today exclusive. Headlines Today has learned that the manager of the Indian team in England, Sunil Dev, is deeply disappointed and angry with the manner in which the whole issue was handled and will state that in his report to be submitted in a couple of weeks. The target is not the Indian player in question. The target is not the captain for taking up the issue. The target is not ICC's appointed Judicial Commissioner Gordon Lewis for letting off Anderson. The target is not the members of the BCCI who travelled to Southampton to extend support to the team. Instead, the target are the lawyers who were hired by the BCCI to defend Ravindra Jadeja and make sure that action was taken against England's fast bowler James Anderson. In his report, the manager is set to make it clear in no uncertain terms that the lawyer could have done much better, that the case was not handled well at all by the lawyers, that James Anderson deserved to be punished and should have been punished, that letting him off had an adverse effect on the morale of the team, and that the whole Indian management on tour, including Captain Dhoni and coach Duncan Fletcher, unanimously were of the opinion that the case should be taken up.
It's a very hurtful decision, frankly, because I felt a lot of things were neglected in judging, the case. And if you see what exactly happened, the umpire called lunch and we started walking. There's an individual who again used foul language against Jadeja, and I had to step in the middle. And by the time we had reached the ropes, and I thought the thing has refused. Again, something happened. Something was told to him, and he just turned across to the individual, and after that he was pushed.
The matter is now done and dusted, but the BCCI seems to have learnt its lesson. The manager feels that the way it was handled by the lawyers left a thought that the complaint should not have been made in the first place. The series is now over and Team India's morale lies in ruins following the 1-3 debacle in the Test series. But perhaps, just perhaps, had the Slanderson issue gone in India's favour, the results could have not been so bad. Sports Bureau, Headlines Today.
Alright, Boria, let me go straight to you and ask this. Now the board is blaming the lawyers for the entire Slanderson episode. I mean, what's happening with the board? They seem to be not asking the right questions.
Siddharth, if you really sort of look into the debacle, there is absolutely no relationship between whether Slanderson or Jadeja being let off and what happened on the field.
Yeah.
The manager's report is a different matter. The manager is raising these questions and pertinent questions. I mean, he was the manager here. He has a responsibility towards the BCCI by submitting his report. He's raising questions about the support staff and this one. But if you really want to look into why India lost, Nasser Hussain made a very pertinent point. If you're baking a cake, your ingredients are not in order. A layer of chocolate at the top cannot do it, right?
Yeah. So
your problem is batting. Virat Kohli, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane, Shikhar Dhawan, Gautam Gambhir pinpoint at the problems. Mahendra Singh Dhoni's captaincy. Unless these things are rectified, however much you blame lawyers, however much you say support staff needs to be blamed, and you change support staff and you appoint a team director in Ravi Shastri, nothing's going to change. It's ultimately the players who will have to go out there in the middle and deliver. So far, they haven't on this tour, which is why you've lost the way you have.
Do you think, Nikhil, this is an entire, cook-up by the BCCI just to cover up and, leave the players alone so that they are not surrounded by controversy?
I don't think so. To be very honest, the lawyers can only do so much. That's a legal battle that's outside the field of play. But it makes sense what Boria just said, that at the end of the day, within that field of play, if you're not competitive, you don't put runs on board, your bowlers don't look to get 20 wickets, you'll not win test matches. He's absolutely right. Before we went to the England tour, make no mistake, Cheteshwar Pujara as well as Virat Kohli, two Indian future stars of Test cricket in overseas conditions.
Yeah.
Fair enough, anybody can have a bad series, it's part of sport, ups and downs keep happening, but what about some of the other guys? It was unfortunate that we saw in batting that we had sporadic performances. Somebody performed well in one innings, the other one performed well in one innings. So there was no partnerships being built, and especially in the top four.
Yeah.
And that's what hurt Team India. You know, our middle order got exposed to the new ball. And that's where we never got runs on board. You know, let's call a spade a spade. Our boys never played good competitive cricket. So you can't blame the board for it.
So nobody seems to be blaming the players right now. And so it's the lawyers who are to blame. But the question is, when will the real culprits of the mauling in England be questioned? Why doesn't the BCCI focus its attention on Virat's poor form? Who will question Dhoni's bizarre tactics? And who will raise a finger on Jadeja's poor performance as a bowler?
The mauling at the hands of England was complete. The embarrassment in the Test series total. The disaster on tour to England was beyond imagination. And now, when the post-mortem has started, BCCI is pointing fingers at all and sundry. Excuse number one. The support staff were to blame. Excuse number two. The lawyers in Slanderson were incompetent. Excuse number three. The team's morale was low. And lastly, the coach could not communicate. The corrective measure, according to the BCCI, has started. The junior coaching staff has been sent on a break, and Ravi Shastri has been appointed director of cricket.
India worried too much about the big names, you know, Duncan Fletcher, Ravi Shastri, all this. The players, it's the players that win or lose test matches, home and away. It is the players that are accountable. Who has let India down on this tour? It has been the players, no one else.
But the big question is, who will address the bigger issues? Who will talk about the abject surrender by the Indian batsmen? Who will address Virat Kohli's drought on tour after he scored less runs than the extras contributed? Who will talk about Cheteshwar Pujara's abject surrender against the incoming balls? Who will talk about Rahane getting out, caught and bowled time and again? Who will talk about Dhoni's poor tactics as a captain? Who will talk about the poor selection during the tour? Who will talk about Jadeja's poor show as a bowler? Nobody. So far, nobody. All we know that the wrath of the defeat is being borne by assistant coaches Joe Dawes and Trevor Penny. We know that BCCI's go-to man Ravi Shastri is now the boss. We know that Dhoni will stay captain of the team.
There is no question of changing the team right now. There is no question of changing MS Dhoni from the captaincy. And such questions are not important at the moment.
The dust of defeat in England has settled and has been duly dusted under the carpet. And going by the noises, or rather the lack of them, made by the BCCI, one thing is very clear. Another mauling abroad is not too far away, and lambs will remain lambs. Sports Bureau, Headlines Today.
Alright, nobody seems to be questioning the players for the poor performance, but we at Headlines Today will. And Nikhil, my question is to you. What about Virat's poor form in the Test series? What about the opening pair not working? And of course, we haven't touched on bowlers. Bowlers were also not able to pick up 20 wickets.
So that's the differences for bowlers, you know, to try and be a little more competitive or put pressure on the opposition. You must have runs on that scoreboard.
Yeah.
You know, you get 450 runs behind your back as a bowler. All of a sudden, you know, your heart is, you know, as big as it probably could be. You're a different bowler altogether. You know, you can go out there and put some pressure on the opposition. But when you've got, not even 150 runs on board, what do you expect the bowlers to do? Sometimes, you know, fair enough, a couple of innings here and there, but you'll never be able to win Test matches. At the end of the day, you must have runs on board. And also, when you talk about Virat Kohli, Cheteshwar Pujara, the openers,
yeah,
I can understand one of them out of the four having a bad run of form in one series. But it's very unlike or very unfortunate that our top order completely failed altogether in that same very series. How do you expect somebody to go out there and win a test match when your top four, all four have been the worst form?
Yeah.
You possibly can. I can understand. It's sport. Out of the first six, Virat has a bad series, fair enough. You could have one because he's done well in the past.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, all four having a bad run of form, I don't know what. These guys need to come back, check on their techniques. It's important. Mentally, when you go overseas, you need to be prepared for this, for the kind of conditions you'll be playing. You had Rahul Dravid in the initial part of the test series to be helping some of the batsmen. I don't know whether he was able to get through some of these batsmen, because if you saw, and we spoke about this as well, all these guys were repeating their mistakes. And in international sport, that's the cardinal sin. You cannot repeat your mistakes.
Well, Boria, you've been following the entire test series. You are in England. You must have spoken to Dhoni also about his captaincy. I mean, what's going wrong for him?
You guys were listing excuse after excuse. How do you explain Moeen Ali picking 18 wickets? Nikhil's an off spinner. 18 wickets from Moeen Ali against India. You then say, Ravi Shastri has just said that, he puts it down to inexperience. When you say you put it down to inexperience, Murali Vijay has been around for 6-7 years. Cheteshwar Pujara 4 years. Virat Kohli 4 years. Mahendra Singh Dhoni 10 years. Ajinkya Rahane 3 years. Inexperience for who? In 2011, we were told that this is too experienced a team. The older generation need to now make way for the new one. Now we are told the new ones are still inexperienced. That's a problem. One time the old ones are a problem. Now the new ones are a problem. Come on, pinpoint your problem for the first. This is nonsense. This inexperienced 5 test match series. England was also playing a 5 test match series. You are saying your players were tired? James Anderson was also bowling in the 5 test matches. Stuart Broad was bowling with an injury. Believe you me, in Australia when you go in December, you'll find it even more difficult test series to play. Will you then say inexperience in Australian conditions?
Nikhil has a point here.
Who's been saying that this team is inexperienced? Because even some of the guys who've not played maybe so many test matches, at the end of the day, they've been playing first-class cricket for the last 7-8 years. And by that time, you're a matured cricketer. You must understand the situation.
Well, this debate can go on and on, but Boria, make your last point.
Ravi Shastri has just given an interview that, it's about inexperience and they had no idea about a 5 test series.
Yeah.
Come on, for God's sake, Virat Kohli and Cheteshwar Pujara are all 5 years, 6 years old in international cricket. Say they capitulated, it was an abject surrender, it was a pathetic performance. And you really want to improve? Get all of these guys to play county cricket. Appointing a director of cricket, getting 2 support staff removed will do nothing for Indian cricket, for God's sake.
Alright, this debate can go on and on. Thanks Nikhil and Boria for joining me. It's time for a very small break, but sports action continues on the other side.